All right, good morning, traders. Today is June 6, 2025. My name is John Carignan. I am the lead instructor here at the BYOB Trading Room. And this is the morning prep video. Let's go take a look at, well, before we get started, let's start off with right here, okay? Doug Campbell's going to have open house on Monday, June 9th, okay? So that's, you're going to go through the weekend. And then on Monday, he's going to have an open house from 9:30 to 4. It's free to attend. All you got to do is register. Registration will be in the description. So there'll be a link in there. Just press that link or post that into your browser and just get signed up. That's all there is to it. It's free. It's no charge. You do have to get registered. So that is June 9th, 9:30 to 4. That's this Monday coming up. Okay, not May 12th. Wrong one. Let me get the right one up here. And let's try it again. How about this one? Yeah, that's the one. Okay, June 9th. That's it. June 9th, 2025, 9:30 to 4:30. 4 o'clock. All right? He's really good with options. All right? He can teach you all about spreads. You can go hang out for a whole day with Doug, ask him questions. All right? He'll help you with entries, exits, stops. All right? All of that. Trading plan, the whole deal. All right? So, again, Monday, June 9th, 9:30 to 4. All right, let's go ahead and get started here. All right, today's June 6, 2025. Good morning, traders. Hey, thank you, everybody out there in digital land, cyber land, podcast land, all of you out there on the digital World Wide Web. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for following. Thank you for the kind comments. Thank you for the thumbs up. Thank you for the like. Thank you for everything that you do that is kind and generous. I appreciate that. And again, I don't take that for granted. All right, so my SPY pivot this morning is 595.75 above it. I'm a bull, below it I'm a bear. All of the Fab 5 are still in daily uptrends. FNGB made a higher low and a higher high, closing over a bullish trap over the 17. Diamond Dow made a lower low and a lower high, closing inside a bullish trap over the 17 EMA. IWM made a lower low and a lower high, closing over a bullish trap over the 17 EMA. SPY, GLD, and QQQ made outside days, that's higher highs, and lower lows, closing inside bullish traps over their 17 EMAs. SPY closed with a 2-hour bearish cross and a 10-minute downtrend, okay? So they kind of got a 2-hour downtrend going on. We'll see what happens if that's going to continue. GLD and SLV, both in daily uptrends. Remember, gold made an outside day. Silver made a higher low and a higher high, closing over a bullish trap over the 17 EMA. USO in a daily uptrend made a higher low and a higher high, closing over a bullish trap over the 17. UNG made the outside day, higher high, lower low, closing inside a bullish trap, but underneath the falling 17 EMA. US dollar index still in a downtrend. Hey, we like that. Closed near the 98.73 area. SPY max pain for today, and that's for the puts and calls that expired today, is 590 with a put to call ratio of about 2.38 puts to each call that expires today. All right, let's go take a look at some charts. ES pivot, 59.61 is below. I will take a look at that chip, all right? Terry says, good morning. I think that's good morning. I hope the day is as smooth as his coffee. Well, Terry, I hope so too. Fridays are notorious for not going completely to targets. They kind of stop short a lot of times and pin it to a number. All right, so I hope it's smooth. I don't expect it to be smooth though, because A lot of options expire today, and they pretty much go after whatever they can do to alleviate whatever pain they're going through, and make for a nice profitable weekend before they take a couple days off. So we'll see what happens. All right, it's notorious for pinning it to a number at the end of the day. All right, so this is SPY game plan. Let me move this down here. So this is SPY game plan for today. See, wild action yesterday. You can see higher high, lower low right here on SPY. First it was an inside day, now it's an outside day. All right, so SPY, I like 7 days till expiration and Friday options, and 14 days till expiration Friday options. I like the strikes that are the multiple of 5, so like 595, 600, 590, 585. I like those options, increments of 5. I like the Friday options because they got more open interest. I like them $5 to $15 out of the money for that reason, because I got a small account, and it's less performance, but it's also less risk. Okay, you want premium performance, you got to pay up for that option that's going to give you premium performance. That would be the in the money 0 DTE. That will cost you quite a bit to trade that one. Okay, so I like them out of the money. All right, they don't give you quite the performance that an in the money does, but they're cheaper. All right, and when you've got $2 and $3 candles like this one, okay, if you've got 10 contracts and you see this goes from 595 clear down to, that's one 10-minute candle, down to 592 roughly, maybe beyond it, 591 really. Okay, so that's like a $4 candle right there. All right, if you got 10 contracts, that's $4,000. All right, if you're on the wrong side of this and you're trading in the money options, all right, that's $4,000 just erased, just like that, if you're on the wrong side. So that's why I don't like, for my small account when I'm starting out, I don't like in the money options. I like to take on a little bit less risk, all right, because you're not going to get that penny for penny performance out of the money options. Okay, you get it when you trade the in the money options. All right, so I like 10-minute uptrends over VWAP, and I like them better when they're breaking away from that VWAP to the upside. I like 10-minute downtrends under VWAP, and I like those when they're breaking away from VWAP to the downside. All right, so if we happen to observe or encounter, okay, a 10-minute uptrend and it hasn't done the whole green erases red entry, all right, I'm not afraid of taking that 10-minute uptrend, all right, if it's already started, okay, like from down here, maybe the uptrend starts here, all right, and it's over VWAP 10-minute uptrend. I'm not going to wait to take my 10-minute uptrend till I get green erases red. I will start it as soon as it probably crosses the pivot, or probably as soon as it breaks a rubber band candle. All right, so, and the same thing goes with the downtrends. If we have a downtrend that commences or originates from up here, all right, I will not wait till it goes all the way to red erases green entry way down here. Okay, I will trade it as soon as it probably crosses the pivot or breaks the rubber band candle, either one or both. Okay, if it starts from up here. I'm just saying, you don't have to wait for the whole red erases green entry, and you don't have to wait for the whole green erases red entry, because this is a wide swath here. You've got, I think this is like 592.35, and this is 598.15. So that's like $6. It's about $6 right in there. Okay, that you could be trading if we have the correct if we got a 10-minute uptrend or a 10-minute downtrend. Okay, so you don't have to wait till it breaks out, because you can see it's been stuck in this range. 4, 5, and 6, we had kind of a breakout to the downside right here. So what did we trade yesterday? We traded this 10-minute downtrend underneath VWAP. Okay, we traded that. Notice it didn't get down here till right about there when it crossed the pivot earlier in the day. So there's a 10-minute downtrend under VWAP. We traded that, and then we traded the 10-minute uptrend in the morning over VWAP. So up and down. So we made money on calls, and we made money on puts to the downside. All right, today, or not today, well, right now we are in a rare opportunity, okay? And this is what I call a rare opportunity. You can 10-minute uptrends over VWAP, all right, that are also inside 2-hour uptrends, that are also inside of daily uptrends, all of that all in daily uptrends, that are also inside of monthly uptrends, and all of that over the all-time high anchored VWAP. Okay, those are the rare opportunities. Okay, we got a bearish cross that happened on the 2-hour, so we'll see how that plays out. I can see price recovering all the way back to the pivot this morning, so we'll see what happens. All right, but that's the rare opportunity. Okay, that's when those your 10-minute uptrends will probably go further. Your 10-minute uptrends will probably have a higher win rate than your downtrends, because the downtrends are going to be counter trend. All right, so this is the rare opportunity right now. All of this over the all-time high anchored VWAP as we make our path to set a new all-time high. We're not far from it, okay? We were up there at 599 yesterday, all right? And you can see, I think the all-time high, I'm just going to guess, I think, if I remember right, it's about 613, all right? So that's striking distance for SPY. SPY can move, with a good tweak, can move $25, $30. All right, so we'll see what happens. All right, so there's the SPY game plan. Okay, so for today, you see the options I like. Okay, 10-minute uptrend over over the pivot. The first green erase is red entry. All right, it's 598.15. First red erase is green entry. Okay, under the pivot is 92.35. 592.35. Okay, that's the first red erase is green. All right, so now how am I going to trade SPY today? Well, anything could happen, all right? Let me just say the news could come out and things could get moved around. But let's go take a peek real quick here and see what we got going on. Okay, you've got some consolidation up here, okay? If I had consolidation breakout up here over this 595.75, all right, that means break it plus a rubber band candle, I would trade that 10-minute uptrend to the upside. That would be my first trade on the upside. If price breaks below these tails down here, okay, probably wouldn't even wait for the rubber band candle for that, because that would be a continuation of this downtrend right here. And I would probably trade that 10-minute downtrend to the downside, right down to this area right here where it says red erase is green, 592.35. First target would be obviously gap fill. All right. Second target would probably be 592.35 or right down here 591.31. Okay, all three of those. Okay, gap fill, which is about 592.99, then 592.35, and then 591.31 right there. Okay, that would be my, if we get below these tails right here, because that would be from the pre-market consolidation, that would be a red erases green entry right there. Okay, so that's what I'm looking at this morning. That's how I trade SPY. All right, and I stay with it until The 3 EMA on the 10-minute chart crosses back over the 8. All right, that's what I would do. So there's SPY. Let's go take a look at QQQ game plan. Head back over here. I got to fix that ES. Right here. Okay, QQQ pivot 527.75. Above it, I'm a bull. Below it, I'm a bear. Bullish green erases red. All right, so that's up over this peak right here. First entry 529.75. Yep, 529.75. That's the first one. Green erases red entry. Red erases green underneath 525.15. That's my first red erases green. Again, the pivot's 527.75. Same thing on QQQ, all right? I like 7 days till expiration Friday options. I like 14 days till expiration Friday options. I like them on the increments of 5, the multiples of 5. So like the 530, the 525, the 520 strike, okay? They're going to have more open interest. All right, so I like those. All right, so there's QQQ. That's the 10-minute chart. Again, if I have a 10-minute uptrend that originates, let's say down here, I am not going to wait till I get a green erases red entry way up here. I am going to trade it as long as it's over the pivot and probably has broken the rubber band candle in regards to VWAP. All right, so 10-minute uptrend over VWAP. Same thing, 10-minute downtrend under VWAP. Okay, sometimes price contains itself within the range from the prior day. So it's possible we get a 10-minute downtrend that forms, okay, or manifests from up here. I'm not going to wait till I get the red line for my red erases green entry. I will trade it, all right, up here as long as it passes through the pivot and probably looking for that rubber band candle to break. Okay, so that's what we're looking at. You can see here's QQQ. You can see yesterday's price action, nice exhaustion candle right into the support area right there. All right, so there's QQQ on the 10-minute chart with the 10-minute game plan for today. You got your green erases red entry right here, 529.75. Your red erases green entry, 525.15. And your pivot, 527.75. Okay, let's go back to SPY. All right, and let's pick up a clean chart. All right, let's look at the 10-minute. You can see the 3 EMA, which is the yellow line, is underneath the white 8 EMA. Okay, so the faster moving average is underneath the slower moving average. So we have a 10-minute downtrend under VWAP right there. Okay, so we left off with a 10-minute downtrend. I would look for continuation of that 10-minute downtrend. We're gapping up, so I don't know if we're going to get that. We'll see what happens. Again, things could change between 8 o'clock and 9:30. All right, so 10-minute downtrend, as you can see, coming into the close on Thursday evening. All right, let's take a look at the 2-hour. On the 2-hour, we had an uptrend. You see, it's the yellow is on top of the white line. Okay, very faintly. It's hard to see, but it's there. I could probably crank that up. All right, make it a little thicker. There you go. Right, now it's more visible. Okay, the yellow line is on top of the white line. Okay, now into the close, look. We had a bearish cross. So it comes from up above and crosses over, and now it's under. Crosses on top and under. Okay, from up above to underneath the white 8 EMA right there. Okay, so we got a bearish cross coming into the close yesterday. That's Thursday evening. All right, on the 2-hour chart. Let's take a look at the daily chart. All right, daily chart, you can see we're still in a bullish uptrend here, okay? The 3 is still on top of the 8 for the last 2 weeks. pretty much. Almost right there. Here's 4 days. Here's another 4 days. Okay, so we had one outlier right here, which dragged price down. All right, you can see, and then you go back to the previous day, it was up above. Another 10-minute daily uptrend, you can see right there. Okay, so there's SPY on the daily chart. Okay, now let's take a look at this with the quad lines, and that's kind of busy. Here we go. This is a much better one. All right, so we look at SPY. Made an outside day. Okay, so that would be, you can see here a higher high from Wednesday. Okay, this is Thursday's candle. Higher high and a lower low. You can see we closed inside the bullish trap. 3's on top of the 8. Okay, we closed over the 17. Okay, so closing in the bullish trap, that's neutral. All right, closing over the 17, that's bullish. Okay, we made an outside day. We're closing over the uptrend line. That's bullish. We're closing up in, see the quad lines, up in quadrant 4. That's bullish. We're closing up over this all-time high anchored VWAP. That's what I was talking about. Those 10-minute uptrends inside the 2-hour uptrends, inside the daily uptrends, inside the monthly uptrends, okay? And I skipped weekly for a reason, and I'll get to that in just a minute. All right, so you can see all of that, and you can see price is doing the right stuff. And when I say the right stuff, price moves up and holds the higher ground. Okay, you move up and you give it up. That's just neutral. Same thing, you move down and you give it up. That's just neutral. All right, but when things change, all right, when price moves up and holds the higher ground. Notice, it climbs into quadrant 4 and hangs out there. All right, it's camping out. Quadrant 4, that's bullish. All right there. Okay, price action for SPY. Notice it has a higher low and higher highs. So that's an uptrend. We're bullish up here in quadrant 4. Okay, let's take a look at the 2-day chart. And you'll see why pretty soon, why I didn't talk about the weekly. Okay, on the 2-day chart, all right, well, actually, we'll go back to the daily chart. We're in an uptrend, okay? Why? Because we're making higher lows and higher highs, okay? See this high over the 17? Well, we took that high out. See this high over the 17 EMA? 17 is these red dots, okay? These red dots that turn red when price is underneath, and green when price action is above. Okay, it's a 17 EMA. Okay, exponential moving average. Okay, so you can see we had a high there. Well, we made a higher high. So that negates the downtrend and converts the uptrend. Okay, label or status. All right, so that's the daily chart. Okay, making higher lows, and you can, like I said, higher highs, that's an uptrend. So now we're going to go to the 2-day chart. You're going to see that the first high over the 17 that we come to, okay, this is the rally, all right, is right here. It's the all-time high. Okay, so we have to take out the all-time high in order to negate the downtrend status that we're in. All the way up here, okay? But here's the good news, okay? We're in a downtrend, but guess what? We're not moving down. We've been moving up for a while. You can see each candle is a 2-day candle. So multiple days of moving up as opposed to moving down, and we're in a downtrend, okay? Same thing with the 3-day. 3-day, in order to negate the downtrend, label or status, just a label, okay? It has to take out that high. All right, here's the good news. On the 3-day, it's not moving down. All right, so it's in a downtrend. It's just experiencing what we call as a pullback in that downtrend. All right, and if it happens to keep moving up and takes out this high, it will negate the downtrend and convert it back into an uptrend. Okay, so that's the 3-day chart. Okay, weekly, it's the same deal. All right, this is why I didn't say the weekly, because the weekly's not quite, in quotation marks, in an uptrend. It's in a downtrend, but it's not moving down. It's moving up. All right, so there's weekly up here, quadrant 4. All right, so there we are. And you can see on the monthly chart, let me just kick this out for just a second. Actually, I'll just do this. Makes it more visible. All right, so you can see on the monthly chart, here's the low. All right, but we didn't break the higher low over here, okay? So we're still in an uptrend on the monthly chart. The weekly made lower lows. The monthly did not. So the monthly is still in an uptrend right there. Okay, so there's SPY. All right, let's go take a look at QQQ and peek at it on the daily chart. Let's look at it with the quad lines on there. Again, another outside day. Okay, closing. All right, inside a bullish trap that's neutral. All right, closing over the rising, see the green dots? The rising 17 EMA, that's bullish. We're up here in quadrant 4, that's bullish. We're up over the uptrend line, that's bullish. We're up over the all-time high anchored VWAP, that's bullish. You can see we are within striking distance. Okay, 533.34 was about the high for yesterday, and the all-time high is right here, and that is 540.81. Okay, QQQ is in striking distance of new all-time highs. Just saying. Okay, watch those 10-minute uptrends over VWAP. All right, QQQ daily chart. Okay, up over the all-time high anchored VWAP, up in quadrant 4, making higher lows and higher highs. Okay, all that's bullish, and the higher lows and the higher highs, that's an uptrend. Again, price action is doing the right stuff. Moving up, holding that higher ground. Okay, that's the right stuff right there. Up over the uptrend line, that's bullish. All right, same thing for QQQ exists for SPY. Same thing for SPY exists for QQQ right now. Things could change, but they're both moving together right now. All right, let's take a look at FNGB. We watch FNGB. It's got 10 of the most heavily weighted securities inside QQQ and SPY. When those 10 securities move as a pack, they drag the two indexes with them. Okay, so FNGB, a little bit different candle here. Notice higher low, higher high. Okay, the other two were outside days. Closing over a bullish trap, that's bullish. Closing over the rising 17, that's bullish. Closing over the all-time high anchored VWAP, that's a pink line, that's bullish. Closing over the uptrend line, also bullish. Up here in quadrant 4, anytime price is in the upper third, that's bullish. Quadrant 4, that's bullish right there. Okay, and making higher lows and higher highs. That's a uptrend. All right, again, doing the right stuff. Okay, remember what I said, moving up and holding that higher ground right through here. Okay, it's not going up and giving it up. That's bullish. Okay, let's go take a look at IWM. This is Russell 2000. Okay, price action. I have to zoom in because my eyes aren't that good. Price action is a lower high and a lower low. We closed over a bullish trap. That's bullish. We closed over the rising over the flat 17. That's bullish. We closed just under the all-time high anchored VWAP. So we're knocking on the door. That's neutral. We're over the uptrend line. That's bullish. Okay, we're over the midpoint. That's a little neutral to bullish right there. Price action is doing what? Some of the right stuff again. Okay, because it's moving up and holding, see, that higher ground. That's bullish. Okay, as opposed to moving up and moving down. Okay, moving up and giving it up. It's not doing that. Okay, so that's bullish, all right? But it's not in the upper third and it's not in the lower third. So it's just kind of neutral bullish right now. Okay, it's exhibiting neutral, bullish, bullish characteristics. That's what we got, bullish characteristics. Okay, in a neutral territory. Okay, that's what it is. Okay, if we zoom out here, you can see This would be quadrant 1, quadrant 2, 3, 4. See, we're not in the upper third. We're not in the lower third. So it's just neutral. But it is exhibiting some bullish characteristics to it. Okay, so it's looking good. If we can climb up on top of this all-time high anchored VWAP, that would be nice. That would be an improvement. And you can see you linger here too long. Eventually, you grind away at overhead supply, and the next thing you know, you're up here making another grinder box or making higher highs for this rally. Okay, so there's IWM. All right, let's take a look at, we did Diamond Dow. Did we do Diamond Dow? Let's take a look at Diamond Dow. All right, Diamond Dow's candle for today. Okay, we got a lower high, lower low. We closed inside the bullish trap. That's neutral. Over the 17, that's bullish. All right, closing over the uptrend line, that's bullish. Closing over the downtrend line, that's bullish. Closing over the all-time high anchored VWAP, also bullish. Closing in the upper third is also bullish. Making higher lows and higher highs is an uptrend. Okay, so Diamond Dow, bullish. Not quite as bullish as SPY and QQQ, but of course Diamond Dow doesn't have heavyweights that are overweighted inside its index. It's only got 30 products. Okay, SPY's got 500, QQQ's got 100. All right. Big difference, all right? So there's Diamond Dow. Still looking good up here, okay? It's not giving it up, so we like that. So there's Diamond Dow. Let's take a look at our technicals. T2122, okay? Let's look at this day. Okay, so we found ourselves opening up inside the buyer's chop zone. Okay, climbed back on top of this downtrend line. Seem to have found a catch right here. Made a higher high, then came back, made a higher low, and then they kind of lost it. And then they made a lower high, and then they rolled over and found themselves back underneath the downtrend line inside of the buyer's chop zone. So they made a visit to the buy zone for a little while, and the bears slammed the door on them twice. You can see 1 peak, 2 peaks, actually 4 peaks. They got up there 4 times, and they got rejected 4 times. The good news is the bulls don't give up. So there's T2122, T2123. Okay, notice price action doing some of the right stuff. Moving up, and holding the higher ground. Okay? You don't need a ruler to see that it's moving up and moving over to the right, holding that higher ground. That's bullish. Okay, so what do we got? Price is up over the 200 SMA. That's bullish. Okay, price is up over the daily downtrend line. That's a gold line. That's bullish. Price has climbed on top of a prior all-time high. That is bullish. Anytime we have a bullish gap that's not filled by the bears, more bullish environment characteristics. Okay? Anytime you get consolidation over prior consolidation, that is a bullish environment characteristic. Okay? So everything looking good there on the 15-minute. And we're making higher lows and higher highs. That's an uptrend exhibiting much bullish characteristics or environment right there. Let's take a look at the 3-bar. This is the same product, okay? Okay, so you can see here's that daily downtrend line that you couldn't see all of it before. That's that gold line right there, okay? Let's go to the 3-bar chart. Okay, you can zoom out. Now you can see it right there, okay? Again, it's doing the same thing because it's the same product, right? Moving up, holding the higher ground. Okay, on the 3-bar chart, there's a high right there. We made a higher high, so that's an uptrend. We're holding the higher ground. That's bullish. We're attacking the prior all-time high right up there. That's bullish. We are above the downtrend line. Okay, so that's bullish. We are above the fading 200. That's the red line here, 200 SMA. That's bullish. So everything looking good on the 3-bar chart. On the daily chart, it's a little bit different, okay? we're not quite in an uptrend. Why? Because the first uptrend over, the first candle or bar over the 17 is way up here. Okay, meaning in order to negate the downtrend that we're in, okay, we'd have to move through both of these prior all-time highs, move through the flat 200 SMA, all right, and take out that high right there, all right, to negate the label, and it's just a label. Again, it's in a downtrend, but hey, look at the price action. We're moving up and holding the higher ground, okay? Yes, we're in a downtrend, but the good news is we're not moving down. So that's the daily chart, T2123. All right, let's look at FNGB. Of course, we looked at it a little bit earlier, and you can see price action for Thursday. Okay, buying the beginning of the day. Remember I said traded calls at the beginning of the day and then puts at the end of the day. So the buying program took over in the morning, and then you can see the profit taking took over in the afternoon. Wow, nice recovery. What's going on there? Is that payroll or is that AVGO or who is that? It's payroll? Non-farm payroll? Nice pop there, FNGB. That's looking good. All right. All right. On the 15-minute, we are up over the 200 SMA. That is bullish. Up over the all-time high anchored VWAP. That's a pink line. That's bullish. Over the daily uptrend line. That's bullish. Okay. Making higher lows. Here's a low. There's a higher low. Oh, look. Here's another higher low. There's a higher high. And making higher highs. All of that is bullish, okay? This is bullish. And these are the 10 heavyweights, all right, inside QQQ and SPY. When they move as a pack, let me just say, they drag those two indexes higher when they move as a pack higher, okay? So we watch this one, FNGB. All right, let's go take a look at a few sectors, and then we'll hit the economics package. All right, first sector, XLE. All right, so here's the energy sector. Okay, price. Here's Thursday's candle. Okay, it's in the lower third, so that's bearish. Okay, we're in an uptrend. All right, here's the problem: we're not moving up. Okay, we're in an uptrend because why? We made higher lows and higher highs. Wonderful, but here's price from the last high, which is about 14 trading days ago. We're just not moving up. All right, so there we go, XLE. Okay, XLE, bearish down here. You can see we closed under a bearish trap. That's bearish. Closing under the 17, that's bearish. Closing under downtrend line 1, that's bearish. Closing under downtrend line 2, that's bearish. Closing underneath all-time high anchored VWAP, also bearish. In the lower third, bearish. Hey, but we got an uptrend, okay? But here's the problem. Just not moving up, all right? So that's XLE. So no love for XLE right now. It's not ready yet. That's what happens sometimes. Let's take a look at UNG. All right, UNG still in a downtrend, has not made a higher high. This would be the high to beat right there. See that peak over the 17 EMA. Okay, they don't have to take out this one. They just have to take out this lower high here. They haven't done it yet. All right, so still in a downtrend. All right, price action. You can look at it closing under a trap. Is that, yeah, under a trap. That's bearish. Under the 17. That's bearish. On the backside of this downtrend line, I'll just call that neutral because it's not, the position is not the best. Okay, you're way down here. You're not in the lower third, but you're not in the upper third. So you're just neutral, and you just broke out of the bearish lower third. Okay, you are up over this uptrend line, and you've transitioned across the back of this downtrend line. Okay, really nothing exciting for UNG. Okay, nothing, I got to say, it's nothing impressive at all. This is a 12-month high anchored VWAP. All right, the fact that you closed under it is also bearish. And let me just zoom way out so you can see the full picture. That's just the 12. That's not the all-time high. So you can see that was a very low bar to set in the fact that if you close over, if UNG closes over this 12-month high anchored VWAP, okay, that's a really low bar. All right, so there's UNG. So no love from UNG. All right, USO. All right, USO, a little bit different here, okay? USO in an uptrend. USO making higher highs and higher lows. That's bullish. USO closing over the bullish trap. That's bullish. Over the 17. That's bullish. Closing under this. This is a post-COVID high right there. 3-year high anchored VWAP. All right. That is, that's neutral right there. Closing underneath that. We are not in the lower third, so we're neutral. We're not in the upper third, so we're definitely not bullish. Okay, so we're not bearish. We're not bullish. We're just neutral through here. Nice little breakout here. It's looking good. Maybe they can get something going. All right. Notice the valley between two peaks. All right. Almost always becomes a target. Just like the peak between two valleys almost always becomes a target. See the valley right here, this low between these two highs, and you can see price pulls back to that location. So if you're ever looking for a good target, look for that valley between two peaks or the peak between two valleys, either one. Okay, make excellent targets. All right, so there's USO on the daily chart. It's in an uptrend, and it's moving up. It's on the move. It's looking good. Okay, we've got a higher low, another higher low. We're making higher, made a higher high, finally. Okay, so we're in an uptrend. USO. Getting some love from the market like that. All right, let's take a look at GLD. All right, here's GLD. Up over, all-time high anchored VWAP. That's bullish. Closing inside the bullish trap, that's neutral. Closing over the 17 EMA, that's bullish. Closing over the uptrend line. See the uptrend line, that's bullish. Closing in quadrant 4, that's bullish. Again, moving up and holding the higher ground, that's bullish. Up there, okay, that's bullish. All right, in an uptrend, making higher lows and higher highs. That's everything looking good on GLD. Let's take a look at SLV. All right, SLV just made Thursday new 12-year high. This is a 12-year high anchored VWAP right here. Okay, if you go back 12 years, you'll see this is a new 12-year high right there. Not the all-time high, but a new 12-year high. Again, closing over the trap, bullish. Over the 17, bullish. Over the 12-year high anchored VWAP, bullish. Okay, top of quadrant 4, bullish. All right. The only problem is silver has trouble moving up and holding the higher ground. Notice every time they go up, they give it up. They go up and they give it up. This time they got up there and they held in the neutral zone. Okay, that was nice. But every time they got up here in quadrant 4, they've given it up. Maybe this time is different. We'll see. So there's silver. If it is different, you know, think about trading some silver for another leg up higher, maybe to go attack those all-time highs. Okay, so silver on the daily chart, uptrend and bullish right there. All right, let's look at a few sectors. SMH. SMH in the upper third, that's bullish. Over the downtrend line, over the all-time high anchored VWAP, bullish up there, SMH. XLK. Okay, this is big brother to the SMH. Okay, over the pink line, all-time high anchored VWAP. See, we are within striking distance of all-time highs. Look at that right there. I think we're almost inside that candle high right there, almost. Just barely missed it, okay? Anyways, not the high, just the part of that candle. Over the uptrend line, over the all-time high anchored VWAP, over, look at that rising 17. Up here in quadrant 4, all that's bullish and higher lows and higher highs. It's an uptrend and holding the higher ground. Okay, all of that's bullish, XLK. All right, let's take a look at XLF. Same deal, all right? Holding the higher ground, that's bullish. Okay, closing under the trap, that's neutral. Over the 17, that's bullish. Over the all-time high anchor VWAP, bullish. Up in quadrant 4, that's bullish. Holding the higher ground, bullish. All right? Everything bullish, higher low, higher high, uptrend. Okay, everything looking good on the financials. Here's the problem child. Okay, the transports. You kind of watch the transports because the transports tell you that products are getting moved off the shelf and they're replenishing them with new products that are shipped in or trucked in or moved in through freight or delivery, whatever it takes. You know what I'm saying? Okay? And we're not getting that warm fuzzy feeling from the transports. Okay? Just not like the financials, not like technology, not like the semiconductors. Okay? So it'd be nice to see that products are getting moved around the country. Not that they're not, okay? But let me just say, when you get a lot of orders coming in, all right, orders represent unpaid revenue, but it represents future revenue, all right? Maybe it's be airplanes like Boeing. Could be arms that go to some foreign country to help defend their, their land. It could be anything, okay? Just not getting that warm, fuzzy feeling from the transports, all right? And this is the chink in the armor right here. Okay, just not getting it yet from the transport. Here's the good news. They're moving up and they're holding the higher ground. That is bullish. Okay? They've transitioned through, they're up on this, they're over this uptrend line. That's bullish. They're over the midpoint. That's bullish. Okay, they're closing below the trap, that's neutral. They're closing below the 17, that's bearish. They're closing below the all-time high anchored VWAP, but let me just say they are knocking on the door, that's neutral. And they're not in the upper third, not in the lower third, and they're not in the upper third, so it's neutral. Okay, they have a possibility, they have a chance of getting up there. Don't like the lower highs. I do like the equal lows. All right, so maybe if the transports could get going, we'll see. All right, so there's IYT. All right, just the last one to complete the trinity for a robust rally. Robust rally is transports, financials, technology. Really semiconductors, but technology and semiconductors kind of go hand in hand. All right, so there's IYT. Let's go take a look at the economic package, and let's wrap this up. All right. Maximum pain for today is 590 for the puts and calls that expire on SPY today. Okay, we have 2.38 puts to each call. So you can see there's a possible put squeeze on the table. All right. Earnings report. What do we got here? Nothing notable, okay? Some familiar names, but nothing that's going to move the markets, okay? Nothing here that's going to move the markets, okay? Some notable names, all right, but nothing that's going to move the markets. Economic calendar and the dollar. Here's the dollar. Dollar closed near 98.75. If we look at the dollar made lower highs and lower lows in this downtrend, currently in a bear flag. Underneath what once was major support, now becomes minor resistance. That's this level right through here. See these two lows, that low and this low. We are down under all of that. That was major support. We broke major support, so now we are under minor resistance. All right. Weak dollar is very good for business, not so great for the consumer. Okay, it's good for the business because they get to sell their goods and services for a more competitive rate. Okay, when a foreign country wants to buy some of our goods and services, we want to get paid in US dollars. So the conversion rate, if you have a strong dollar, becomes more pricey, all right, for that foreign country to purchase our goods and services. All right, so we like a weak dollar. Just ask China. They have a weak currency, and they sell a lot of stuff. All right, let's take a look at the economic calendar for today. The employment situation at 8:30, and from what I hear, non-farm payrolls are 139 versus 126, estimated 147 prior. Trying to read that. I'm thinking it's this month was, oh, they estimated it. Okay, so we came in really good. So estimated that non-farm payrolls increased, not unemployment, but employment, over 10,000 or 10,000 than what they were before, or what they had projected. So that's nice there for the employment situation. Got a rig count at 1, and then that's it. Consumer credit at 3 p.m. All right, so be careful. Today is options expiration Friday. All right, so be careful. They like to pin it to numbers instead of hitting targets. So we'll see what they want to do today. All right, I will see you guys all in about 30 minutes, okay? And we'll open up the markets, all right? Until then, everybody have a wonderful evening. Yeah, Chip brought up something. I got to go check on ES. All right, maybe I got that wrong. Red erases green is 5940. Below 5940.